Medicine shapes you long before you realize it. It teaches you how to speak, how to behave, how to think. It hands you guidelines, protocols, policies, all necessary, all important, but quietly they become the architecture of your voice. You learn what is allowed, you learn what is not, you learn the tone that is safe and the phrasing that is appropriate, the emotional distance that is professional. You learn to live inside invisible lines and you stay in medicine and if you stay in medicine long enough, those lines become the walls of a box you no longer notice you're in. I've lived in that box for decades. It wasn't always restrictive. Sometimes it's comforting, a framework that held me steady in difficult situations. But there were times when I felt the pressure of it. Times when I wished, I could speak more openly, more directly, more humanly. Times when I felt that even the honest truth had to be calibrated and softened for fear of stepping out of the accepted script, stepping out of the box. So when I began creating videos, I thought I'd stepped out into a freer world, a world where I could speak as myself, not as a doctor, not as a registered practitioner with guidelines and oversight, but as a person with thoughts, stories, and a voice of my own. For a moment, it felt like air. And then slowly, another script appeared. YouTube. YouTube has its own expectations, less formal, but no less prescriptive. Metrics, retention curves, click through rates, algorithms, post at this time, use this phrase, have this hook them in 3 seconds, or you lose them. And I found myself slipping almost unconsciously into a new set of lines, a new set of boundaries, entering a new box, a new kind of pressure. It was medicine all over again, except disguised as creativity. I watched countless videos on how to grow, how to optimize, how to win the algorithm. And I tried, not aggressively, but experimentally, to adjust and to know what worked, to shape my content, the way I speak, in the ways that the system that YouTube rewarded. And in that period, I felt strangely boxed in again. Not by a colleague or a guideline this time, but by a digital current, a digital box, invisible, a box that pushes every creator toward sameness, toward speed, toward artificiality, towards polish speech, polished topics, polished titles. A performance, yes, indeed, a performance. And once again, something in me tightened. The turning point was small, almost trivial. I realized many creators were not speaking at their natural speed. They had increased their playback speed in the post production just enough to appear sharper, brighter, and more energetic. It was a tiny thing, but it struck me deeply because it reminded me of something I've seen in medicine, the pressure to appear a certain way, even when it isn't natural. In hospitals, you learn to hide uncertainty. You learn to hide fatigue. You learn to compress your humanity into professionalism. You speed yourself up internally because that's what the system requires. And suddenly, here in this creative space, in YouTube, people were doing the same, speeding themselves up because the platform required it. Two worlds, two different environments, same pressure, perform, conform, and keep up. And I realize I don't want that again. Creativity doesn't like boxes. It doesn't follow protocols. It doesn't want guidelines or trends. It lives in the gaps, the pauses, and the quiet moments. And once I recognized the parallels between the medical box and the digital box, something in me softened. I stopped watching videos that advises you what to do, how to do. I stopped chasing numbers and I stopped waiting for the graph to approve of who I was. And a quiet relief returned, a sense of being able to speak as myself, not as a performer shaped by numbers, by metrics, by graphs. This made me rethink what YouTube actually is. Not a platform for performance, but perhaps a new way of creating my memoir. Doctors don't often write memoirs. We live too much in other people's stories. But here on camera, you can turn the lens inward for once, and you can speak your own reflection. You can express parts of yourself that medicine often pushes into the margins. And unlike writing, video forces you to show your face, your pauses, your hesitation, your truth. In a way, it's a more complete confession than writing allows. So, this is where I am now. Medicine shaped me, but I will not let another system shape me again in the same way. I refuse to be boxed in, not by guidelines alone, and not by algorithms either, not by metrics, not by trends, not by the digital gloss that reward artificial speed and constant performance. I want to stay real. I want to be human, stay human. I want to create from meaning, not measurement. And if one person watching this, listening to this, recognizes the same tension, the push to conform, the longing to breathe, the desire to reclaim one's own voice, then this piece has already done its work. Because both in medicine and creation, the deepest work is the same. It's finding, it's finding the courage to remain human in a system that quietly prefer you not to be. So I refuse to be boxed in again. Thank you for listening.